Yes.
Yeah. Sorry we're late. We're pouring over Epstein files here.
Yeah. The real Epstein files,
What
right?
what is with all the spelling errors? Our overlords are retarded.
Well, that's Epstein. It's your overlord. It's Epstein who's the tard. Pretty much all his emails have a spelling error in them somewhere.
Yeah. No caps, no punctuation. Just busy man though. Yeah. So
he's not going to be one of the. Obviously, something like that isn't going to be the smartest tool in the box, except in a cunning way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to be like a. He's not going to have smart. He's going to be.
Oh, but he wanted it.
He's going to be an instinctive kind of guy, you know.
He wanted it by association.
Well, that's because
the Harvard donations and
because he knew he was a retard. His compensation, right?
Yeah.
I mean that yeah.
His scientific interests.
Someone like Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, is not
his mathematical genius.
Yeah, sure. You don't get the. He's the definition of a patsy. Obviously, when you find yourself part of some grand conspiracy, one day it's super secret, and then the next day you find your face splashed across all the papers, and the FBI at your door. Only then, you retard, do you realize that you're a patsy?
Yeah, and you're not so smart.
Yeah.
So, well, is this the end of it? I mean, the beginning of the end of it? The DOJ released, well, they said all the remaining files, but it's not all the files. It's a lot, though. It's 3 million documents. 3 million, documents. What's the debate or the issue on whether that's it? Because Massey's saying no, it isn't.
Undoubtedly,
they've obviously claimed right to redact or right to withhold.
Of course, you have to protect the victims. You can protect the victims. You can protect the perpetrators because maybe they're not perpetrators. And there's also national security. So it's actually amazing that you're getting to hear any of this. The fact that any of this is coming out at all makes me very suspicious because state secrets. I mean, they for decades, for forever.
Yeah,
the state has said when there's been an intimation of some serious criminality or some kind of serious, some kind of event that would really diverge from what people think the government is meant to be doing and is doing. They have no problem just saying, national security. Or it goes to court, maybe it'll go to court. And then the intel agencies, the government, whatever, just says, tells the judge plays along, national security, can't release this, and that's it, and it goes away, and it's national security. That's all you had to say forever, national security.
Yeah. 1996, the Dunblane massacre.
Yeah.
All those kids. Part of the initial investigation. Oh, pedophilia links. Oh, what's this? The Native Secretary General, now Lord Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Bam. 100-year moratorium.
Yeah.
On talking about it in the press. 100 years the British government slapped on it.
Yeah.
That's it. Done.
Yeah.
Why don't they just have...
It's anybody who's familiar with this. I mean, okay, the scale of this is bigger and it's more sensational, I suppose, because it involves obviously Israel, the Mossad, Israeli control of the US government and all that kind of stuff. It's much bigger, but the whole idea of pedophile, people, high-level political pedophiles, political psychopaths and political pedophiles go hand in hand, I suppose. Goes back decades and decades, and in the press, we've talked briefly before about the Dutroux affair in Belgium. There was stuff from Northern Ireland, even during the so-called troubles in Northern Ireland and stuff, tied to the British government and all that kind of stuff, in boys' homes and all that kind of stuff. It's been an open secret for anybody who was interested in it. Not that many people want to be interested in it, but to prevent mass interest, there was simply shutdown orders. Yeah, but only so much, and enough gets out. Survivors, people who are abused, basically talk to the press, but it can never go anywhere. There's police investigations get covered up, get shut down, all that kind of stuff. It's been happening for decades. So the idea of pedophiles' positions of powers running child sex trafficking of one type or another networks has been around and known to anybody who was interested in it, and with enough evidence to support it, to leave anybody in little doubt that there's reality behind it. has been around for decades and decades. This Epstein business is just like it writ large, if you know what I mean, broader scale. Although, again, the same level of cover up and limited hangouts around it.
Yeah.
So
it's what is different then?
Well, I don't know. It's coming to people's attention. It's the internet. More people on the internet. More people having been red pilled, whatever you want to call it, black pilled, blue pilled, purple pilled, yellow pilled, whatever. Since then, and more people just opening their eyes to it, and then just the state of the world, if you know what I mean, and the evidence for a generalized lack of morality and decency among political leaders and figures, which reduces obviously people's or encourages people to question and to doubt the integrity of politicians. And then when stuff like this comes out, then suddenly people will jump on that more. If there's more and more people who have that distrust, and for good reason, distrust of or suspicion of people in positions of power, then when something like this comes out, then there's much more. It has more legs. There's more. It's taken up more by the public, and again, also the internet. Because we're really talking about the internet. How many people out there who don't use the internet except to post pictures on Facebook of their breakfast or whatever, or here's me on my holiday? How many people who don't really use the internet, which is a large majority of people, for anything other than just
WhatsApp?
What I said. How many of them even know? So when we talk about stuff, this is all coming out, Sure, it's in the media and all that kind of stuff, but the media's doing a good job of just covering it up, There's some reporting one of the main broad streets in the US calling it, the Epstein stuff that's coming out now is from a bygone era, basically, you know what I mean? Because it's all dated, to whatever back in the mists of time, like pre 2010. So it was a different era then, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is all old hat.
15 years ago, it may as well be like 15 years.
Elites don't behave like that anymore.
Was that around the time of the Second World War? 15 years ago. When was the Second World War? About 2010 or so.
Here's what their counterparts in London are telling the normies. Breaking top headline in the Daily Mail today.
Well, read it out there.
Can't get up.
Stream software just crashed. What is going on?
So it's not streaming.
No, it just locked. It gave some weird Windows library error and went kablooey and just bombed, and now it's locked up, so...
And yet, they're still commenting.
Oh, wait, it might...
They still see and hear. Y'all still see and hear us. The camera's still on Joe.
Yep.
You hear me? We can see and hear you, so...
We'll carry on. What was the headline?
Okay, so Daily Mail today. This is like their summary for the normies as to what the latest Epstein files show us. Headline: Epstein's sex empire was KGB honey trap. Pedophile financier had multiple talks with Putin after conviction, with Russian girls flown in to harvest kompromat on world-famous figures.
So it's all a Russian.
Yeah, it's the Russians.
It's a Russian Putin operation. Yeah. Epstein was a Russian agent. And I see.
I wish you could see this. We'll show it later, maybe, if we can get that up and running. The image they went with is a photo of Jeffrey and Ghislaine wearing Russian winter hats, obviously on a ski trip somewhere in the east. So yeah, that's always to keep in mind. Mind you, every single comment under it on X is you misspelled Mossad, so no one there believes it for sure. But still, that is the normies, what they're getting, that kind of slop. Yeah. Am I, is it just me? Like, the number of times I saw emails where it's Epstein and Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, and definitely Israeli intelligence, using Gmail to communicate. Is that like similarly retarded? I mean, they trust that Gmail is fine, and maybe 10 years ago you could. I don't think so. I think we've always been like, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose if you're aware of the level that this is taking place at, then you're safe in the knowledge that,
Yeah.
I mean, the FBI or whoever would be the NSA or whatever tracking your emails all gets shunted into
normally, but
a
here we
special
are,
category,
and Ehud Barak's Gmail correspondence is public and being dissected.
Right.
It just strikes me as similarly retarded. Maybe there's a number of things. They got lazier as the population got meh. You know what I mean? There's an Overton window shift in several respects. And one of them is they're like, well, fuck it. We're untouchable. The old kind of paranoia we might have had about being caught and found out. Meh, whatever. There is an exception to that. There is one I saw where Epstein responds to someone and it's simply not for email, i.e. stop, we don't want this conversation on paper. So there was some awareness of that. How much of this do we believe is
just FYI here, the camera is stuck on Joe, but everyone can still see and hear you, so I can't show articles and I can't show Neil, but it's still going.
Okay.
So like, right,
all
that's
right.
what we got.
We'll have to just describe what we want to show. And describe my face whenever I'm, shocked. How much of this we believe is legit? I mean, you saw the framing, like where it looked like, I mean, the mainstream ran with it, where Elon Musk was exposed, because he's always insisted he's never met Epstein, never been to one of his locations, his houses. Then an email chain is published, and it's discussing when Musk can come to the island. And Musk was responding to that and said, yeah, I know he invited me. I never went, though.
Well, that's an example of, why you have to curate the files and make sure that you're not putting stuff out there that's going to
implicate someone falsely.
Yes.
And yet this dump just did it. It's a scattershot, and anyone and everyone is connected. Some of the emails, is it possible they're simply false? They've been falsified? That's possible, I suppose. What about the ones you saw, the yellow highlighted descriptions? The most notorious ones in the last 48 hours being shared are descriptions of Trump at orgies provided by anonymous tipsters. I mean, that's first level goy slop, no? Yes.
Well, that gets to the heart of this whole thing. My suspicion around this whole thing of the fact that it's being talked about at all, or that it's known at all, or that it's been given legs. I mean, I'm torn between the idea that these kind of things, especially in the internet age, will eventually come out. As political types
go nuts.
Yeah, increase in their sense of, I don't know if it's a sense of immunity or in a sense, or if they're just chasing power, they're feeling the stress of, I don't know, there's many different theories in terms of why they would be acting in this way, but that ultimately, like, power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts, total power corrupts totally, and these people just get it just becomes institutionalized, over a long period of time. Corruption is so institutionalized that people live in a bubble and they think that they're untouchable and they can get away with anything. And as a result of that, eventually evidence of their corruption, etc., is going to leak out. There's that idea, but then there's also the other idea that I wonder about is whether or not they that was released. This was done publicly in a certain sense, to smear, because like he spent decades, like Epstein, as the front man, as the front useful idiot. Once he stopped being useful, he just becomes an idiot, and is put in jail, and then probably fake suicided. He was at least useful enough, or he was one of ours. Let's say he wasn't that expendable. Let's say so. He was pretty obviously, taken out of prison. Fake suicide. A fake, different body taken in and covered up. And there's all the stuff for the coroner saying, the initial coroner's report saying that it wasn't that his the injuries on the body that at least the coroner examined weren't consistent with hanging.
Yeah.
So the person who they switched bodies, took the person's body that they took in to put in Epstein's cell. They didn't do the due diligence and hang him, or
Right.
maybe he was just some John Doe or something like that, or whatever.
One idea is that it was a relative of Clinton's, not Clinton's, Hillary Clinton's,
Right. Well, that obviously the Hillary
who
Clinton.
died close in time.
Yeah.
Her brother, I think.
Well, that would be a bit risky, like to use
Yeah.
that body. But anyway, who knows the level of cover up that they can get, that they can perform. But because obviously, like, the fact the cameras just happened to switch off for that minute that it took to get Epstein out and get a body in. There's reasonable enough evidence there that he was probably taken out, and that's not unusual in those kind of situations where we want to fake someone's death because they're, someone that's part of your club and you don't necessarily want to totally sacrifice them. But anyway, the fact that he was arrested and then they decided on this course of action, first of all, that he was arrested at all, that the whole thing was that the whole thing came out, it just makes me suspicious that it was maybe deliberately released, because if you have Epstein as the front man of basically a Mossad /CIA / deep state blackmail operation going back several decades, collecting kompromat, if you can, in one way or another, some kind of kompromat. Now you have to understand, kompromat goes from simply having associations with someone like Epstein. So you should get a kind of, it's all tied up together. If part of the kompromat is supplying women / underage girls to people, well, there's many different levels. So one is that, first of all, this guy's a criminal, and at any time you can reveal him as having
Himself committed crimes.
Yeah, having run a sex trafficking network. So that's the first setup. Then you cover all of his criminality up. Obviously, you facilitate all of his criminality in terms of any financial criminality or particularly the sex trafficking thing, and that then marks him as a bad person who later can be revealed. But before you reveal who he is, have him arrested, let's say, have him exposed, you spend a very long time having him consort with the rich and the famous, the influential, and all that kind of stuff around the world, basically. Either the entry was Jeffrey's he's a wizard with the money. He'll take your cash and offshore it, and it'll all be legal, and you'll see a ton of money. Great, lovely guy. Then whatever kind of relationship, depending on the person develops with him, might go to his island, maybe not, might meet him here, whatever. But certainly having financial transactions with him, and then an email chain with him, right? That's not illegal in itself if he's just a financier, right? He's just a financial consultant. Lots of people consult with such people. It's not illegal. But the problem is that this guy is a sex trafficker behind the scenes. Not known yet, but is.
Yeah.
Then other people who have those predilections will either he'll supply women to them, and that is kompromat in the sense of if you're married, whatever, it's, like you can be exposed over that. And especially if it's underage, then you're in real trouble. So you and obviously with the financial aspects, you can also, people who are so inclined could accept Jeffrey's offers, maybe unwittingly, to engage in financial irregularities. So they'll be on the hook for tax evasion or something like that. They would be convinced that it's all legal, but then find out afterwards that it's not. So different levels of potential kompromat on a vast
Huge
range
number
of people. So you're not only
he goes
talking about
everywhere.
you're not only talking about people. The people that he would be, he's contacting everybody. He's trying to get in with everybody, and obviously, like I said, the door into that is finances, right? There's rich, famous people, lots of money, want to save taxes. That's the door in, and everybody's open to that. Doesn't mean they're bad people, but they are potentially bad people, or can be made to look bad because, boom, one day Jeffrey Epstein is exposed as a sex trafficker, across the newspapers, and put in jail.
Yeah.
That day, all those people who had any connection with him at all are like,
Or
holy
on
shit.
notice. And that's a lot of people.
Because the it's not that I did anything, but geez, I hung out with the guy, or I had dealings with him, etc. So for me, that's actually the way that the blackmail, the broad brush with which the blackmail operation was put into effect, was having him exposed.
Yeah.
Because that way it has a chilling effect on all these people, and then most of them with any sense would have realized, well, or found out, maybe knew beforehand or found out afterwards, or knew more or less that he had ties. First of all, he's Jewish. Anybody in the industry knows Jewish, Israel, politics, all that kind of stuff. It has a chilling effect of making all the people in any association with Jeffrey Epstein after he's been exposed to put them in notice that you better toe the line on Israel. And that seems to be the goal of this, is to toe the line. There's all sorts of other benefits. You can get them to do this, get them to do that, whatever. But generally speaking, I think the operation with Epstein was set up, and it's not just Epstein, there's probably others, but the operation was set up by the Israelis / deep state / CIA, whatever, from the outset in order to control the narrative on Israel.
Yeah.
It was security for Israel from the get-go. That was the first goal of it, the primary goal.
Not the only one, but the first.
Yeah, the primary goal of it.
And there is quite a good sinking of that, because 2019 is when he's arrested the second time. They've already been put on notice because he was in trouble back in 2007. But it seemed like the problem was made to go away, but it hadn't. And he comes back from Paris, is arrested 2019. 2019, it's actually only about 6 weeks apart. 6 weeks later, the Netanyahu government begins its workaround through Qatar to dump massive monthly cash payments into the Gaza Strip, which we know from other leaks, Netanyahu intended for them to build up small weapons, but prepare for war with Israel. So that's the sinking of and then of course Gaza finally comes around in 2023, and it's like silence. Some people spoke out, but a lot of people.
And just to flesh that out or explain why protecting Israel or controlling the narrative on Israel was decided on as the primary goal of this kind of a blackmail operation, broad-scale blackmail operation. You're talking about actors, scientists, businessmen, politicians, and everybody else around the world. Anybody of any note, particularly in the West, that's where all the power is, right? But elsewhere around the world as well, Middle East, etc. The reason is that in a normal world, in a normal society, especially in the West with its moral values, liberal democracy, etc., at least ostensibly, Israel was always going to eventually have to
solve its Palestine problem.
Well, it was eventually going to have to do the right thing. It was going to be forced one way or another to stop doing what it had always intended to do, which was wipe out the Palestinians. Kind of mass murder. And the Israelis have had that as a plan for a very long time. Really, in the minds of a lot of notable Israelis at the time, that was the objective or the goal to be achieved at some point in the future. We're going to have to deal with the Palestinian problem one way or the other. And obviously there's only one way to do that when you realize, you might try a few different things here and there, but ultimately Israel wanted all of Palestine. And the problem is that there was four or five, well, depending on the time, but X million of Palestinians living on that land. And they realized, they're smart enough to realize these people aren't going to go anywhere and they're going to fight us all the way. We've basically stolen their land. When that has happened historically, the people just don't go away. They don't ever sit down and just accept it. There's always going to be a significant tranche of them that or a significant element of them that are going to resist it militarily, ongoing, continuously, until something is done. And that's part of the pressure on Israel to do what's right.
And in a sense, nature itself was pointing in that direction. The way the Israelis themselves framed their demographic problem was they combined the populations of the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and the Israeli Arab minority inside Israel, who have a higher birth rate.
Yeah.
They were looking at estimates of by 2030 being the minority in the state for Jews only.
Yeah.
So that obviously is untenable. Nature itself was saying, well, it's going that way anyway. Just go with reality. And they were like, no.
Israel's days were numbered, basically, as an ethno-Jewish, ethno-state for Jews only were numbered. And they all knew that. These are smart people. They know that that's where it's going. So they knew that they had to deal with, again, I use this phrase deliberately, that they knew they were going to have to enact some kind of a final solution to their Palestinian problem, ultimately, eventually. And they've done that for a long time. And they knew that there was no way that they were going to be able to do that in the face of public opinion unless they had some massive leverage over particularly governments in the West and also over public opinion. And public opinion they decided, is shaped by, to a large extent, by celebrities, can be shaped by celebrities and etc. Notable, pillars of society, let's say. So you want blackmail over all those people if you can get it. So that's the only thing I can think of. The only thing that makes sense to me as to what this whole Epstein business was about. I mean, it's not just Epstein as well. That's just one element of it. There's all sorts of other spying and lobbying and all the kind of stuff that's been going on. Espionage, the state of Israel engaging in all sorts of espionage and spirings, actual military spirings in the US and in Western European countries in particular, going back a long time as well. That's totally separate in a certain sense from Epstein. Epstein was in a certain sense for the public. It was a public operation, let's say, as opposed, I don't mean public like open, but I mean it was focused on, it wasn't typical statecraft in that sense, you know what I mean? They have spy rings, military spy rings, actual intel operatives working and spying on America, and they obviously have their lobby groups and all that kind of stuff, AIPAC, etc. That all goes along in parallel. But the Epstein business was
different
for people like
open source.
It was Bill Gates, it was Harry Potter, it was any fringe politicians, whoever,
any up and coming
anyway,
young
influencers,
Elon Musk 10,
whatever,
12, 15 years ago. Yeah. Come to the island.
All those people.
Here's a real time example of just an effect caused by the first order of what you described there. It's just simply association. So there's no scandal associated with this guy at all. Maybe there is. Maybe he was doing dirty stuff with Epstein. The email chain in question is simply an exchange in June of 2019 between someone who's totally blacked out. So the public wasn't meant to see this. Mm-hmm. But one of them, the receiver, one of the correspondents is Epstein. And all they're doing is talking about, can you meet for dinner in Paris on the 20th? I'm in the Balkans, arriving that evening from Bosnia, blah, blah, blah. By the way, X blacked out visiting Zelensky this Thursday. So it obviously is about Ukraine, but it's with some other Eastern European official. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they did this, but the mainstream today is reporting that Slovakia's, so that's Robert Fico's government, Slovakia's national security advisor resigned yesterday over Epstein links. So that email chain in question almost certainly is him. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how they sorted it because his name and email are blacked out. But the local media in Slovakia and European media are going with that over Epstein links. And he denies any wrongdoing. But he's resigned. He's gone, which is a shit. I mean, that's Robert Fico's government. Good. He's a good guy anyway. A good guy, we think. He's mm-hmm. on the right track on many issues mm-hmm.
that
matter. And he's burned. He's burned by the simple email chain association, it seems, on the face of it, with Epstein from 7 years ago.
Yeah. It puts them all in the same club in a certain sense, it kind of
the fairly decent, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you had any, I mean, it goes, who knows how deep it goes, whatever. Some people maybe just consulted him for financial advice and all that kind of stuff, whatever, but like FICO maybe, or for whatever advice. The fact that an idiot like Epstein was given that advice. I mean, that reputation was built up, and passed around. So there's a circle there, and even someone like Fico, the president of Slovakia, is the prime minister of Slovakia is, he's relatively new. He's only relatively recently the prime minister, and before that, obviously just a politician. But there's obviously, once you reach a certain level in politics, suddenly you'll hear Epstein's name dropped, And again, that has to be built up over a very long period of time,
And it is a long period of time. Yeah. Jeffrey Epstein
in the 80s,
was going to, well, certainly he was kind of a public figure. He publicized the role he wished to project as early as 1992 when he first visited the White House. He's on the visit record. There's a photo of him and Ghislaine meeting Bill, 92. And subsequently 20 visits. So that's very much, hi, I'm like a publicist. I'm also a spy, but I'm a publicist.
Yeah.
It's an unusual mix,
Yeah, but someone like him obviously has state backing or has influential backing where they can put him forward, They can talk to the right people and get him a pass. It's like getting a pass into the VIP section. You have to know someone who can get you in there, So Epstein was... It's at state level, and that goes back to the entrenched nature of the Israeli lobby in the US and the Israeli Americans, let's say, and the Christian Zionists and all that kind of stuff. It's been there for a very long time,
Something that perhaps speaks to, I mean, what they're doing here is they're managing a process that was underway. Let's say this is because obviously Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene in the summer, and then more recently when they got the Epstein Act passed, and what we just saw on Friday was the government being 3 weeks late meeting a deadline. So they're just following a process, right? But obviously this is it's still managed. It's not like, oh shit, now we have to disclose everything. You're always 2 or 3 moves ahead, right? So the day before the final batch was published on Friday by the Department of Justice. On Thursday, separately, unrelated, ostensibly, US DOJ itself as well published. Shame I can't share this, but I'm getting this. I got this on RT today, but I'm sure this has been published in the US. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell claims dozens of Epstein's accomplices got off scot-free. 29 alleged accomplices and co-conspirators of Epstein have avoided prosecution, most of them through secret settlements. The disgraced financier and sex offender's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, has claimed in court documents, and they date to a year ago, December 2025. Several US media outlets on Thursday reported on this filing, and then on Friday, the DOJ announced the release of the rest of the Epstein files. So again, there's a synchronization there that didn't have to take place. Those two things are legally separate, but that was thrown in there with the mix at the same time, because obviously that thing is more. It's like a red flag too. It generates more interest in. Aha! I knew it. There were accomplices, but they've had secret deals. So says Ghislaine Maxwell. We
have to remember as well is that. Given that this was, like we just described, an Israeli /deep state /CIA, whatever, operation going back decades to collect information, compromising information of one type or another, some more vanilla, some a lot worse, on as many people as possible. I lost my train of thought because the way you're looking at me.
Is it to do with what we touched on earlier, which is that these are the Epstein files in quotes.
Correct. Yes.
But
Okay.
the actual meat. No. Where's the meat?
Yeah. What I was going to say was like, given that it's this long-term operation to collect information as bad as possible, getting as much as compromising information as possible on anybody that you can, and that is of interest to you, or would be of use to you, i.e., use to the state of Israel and the deep state in the US. It was never the information that was collected, like say the worst information, the stuff that people talk about when they say like release the Epstein files. We know there's more. People want like hardcore evidence, right? They want what do they want? What are they looking for?
Someone who abused minors.
Right, exactly.
The evidence.
They're not looking for.
Or they won't show.
They're
the
not
evidence,
looking for a list of people
who
consulted Epstein
over
even on his island
taxes.
On their taxes. That's like, nah, who cares? We know they all do that anyway. They're looking for evidence. There's a growing impression, at least amongst people on the internet who use the internet for this kind of stuff, that there's something seriously depraved and wrong and disgusting about many members of the political class in the world, or particularly in the West. So they're looking for evidence of that. They want evidence. People want evidence to support they want hard evidence to support the circumstantial evidence that they've been seeing over and over again, from various different
other
fields.
Scandals as well.
Yes. But the problem is they're not going to get that. If those are the Epstein files, when people say release the Epstein files, release the Epstein information, whatever, if that's what they're looking for, you're not going to get it. Ever. You're never going to get that.
Yeah.
First of all, the state is going to protect itself, so it's never going to release that kind of damning information that would cause government to collapse and all sorts of chaos, right? That's national security, right?
It's like releasing proof that 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah, that's national security doesn't allow that, right?
No.
It's not in the interest of the people to know that kind of stuff. They may suspect it, but it's certainly not in their interest for them to have hard evidence for it. And we'll get into this suspecting of it as well, because they know that people are going to suspect as they become more and more corrupt and get away with more and more egregious crimes. They know that more and more people are going to start to suspect, so that they've had ways to deal with that. But they're not going to get the hard evidence, because that evidence that Epstein and others were collecting from on the extreme end, let's say of videos, whatever, of abuse, that information is collected by Epstein for this hidden cameras or whatever, and it's given to Mossad, CIA, this group that was running this basically, and they keep that information. And that information, by definition, is not ever to be released publicly, because there's not really ever a situation, given human nature, that you would ever release that information publicly, because that information is so hardcore that gives you absolute certainty that the person that you would be using it against, the way it's used is you intimate or show in whatever way the person that you want something from, that you have this incriminating against, you show them that evidence. And as soon as they see it, they say, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Do you want my kidney? Do you want my left leg? Do you want both my legs? You can have it all.
Many of them
Short of killing me,
yeah.
I'll do whatever you want. And therefore that information is never used in the way you would think it would be used. The potential that it has, which is we could expose you by releasing this onto the internet or to the public, and then you would either be, your whole career, whatever, would be completely gone, your whole family, everything gone, and you would very likely go to prison for the rest of your life. So, do you want us to do that? No. So you're willing to do whatever we want? Yes. Okay, then we'll keep the information. So all that,
it's safe with us.
All that hardcore information is never gets revealed, because you'd be burning it, you'd be wasting it,
but you'd also be damning the whole edifice that you rely on as well. You have an interest in not.
Yeah.
The conspirator holding all that stuff have an interest in not, because then you have a systemic crisis where loss of faith in the institutions goes fucking catastrophic. Right, for sure. Yeah. To bring it all down. Yeah. Well, if you did it on a broad scale, yeah. So that information will never be released, and by its nature, it's not meant to be released. The only information that you do release is, if necessary, against some particular person who isn't on the line. But that would be vanilla information. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So it can't be Spitzer, remember that? Yeah. So it would be like some maybe financial, even with financial irregularities, each person listening to this would have to decide for themselves that if someone comes to you and wants you to do something that goes against your principles,
and says, if you don't do what I want you to do, I am going to release, okay, let's start off here. I'm going to release, we can release evidence
Tax fraud.
that you were involved in some kind of tax fraud, or we can spin it as tax fraud. If your principles are strong enough and you really don't want to do what you're asking you to do, you go, bring it on. I don't give a shit.
I'll fight you in court.
My principles are stronger than that, whatever. I'll even go to jail.
Yeah.
For maybe a short period of time. Or I'll take the rap or whatever, because I won't do what you want me to do because my principles are strong. You start going further along the line, we have evidence of infidelity. We'll ruin your marriage and your family. Bring it on.
We're divorcing
I don't
anyway.
care. I'm getting divorced anyway. I don't care. It'll ruin your career. I don't care. I don't like my acting job anyway. So, even there, already at that point, most people are going to cave.
Yeah.
And then you can go further on, and obviously they're going to cave at that point.
It's like having...
Well, it gets kind of like... It gets almost kind of obvious in a certain sense. Like, if you go further beyond that, it's a weird... You could do a kind of graph of it, you know what I mean? Where you'd have a person with high morals... the stronger their morality, the stronger their morals or integrity, the lower the chance that you will have serious compromising information on them.
Which is
why
Epstein dallied in barely legal.
Right.
Was she overage? Wasn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know. We got the video though.
Right. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who have no morals whatsoever, no integrity, are basically psychotypes themselves, or just complete, rampant narcissists, whatever themselves. And for those people, you're very likely to have more serious kompromat on them.
But they're never going to do anything.
But the kind of contradiction there is that you're never going to have to use that, because they'll cave. They won't. You won't even have to say to them.
No.
All you have to do is ask them nicely. You don't even have to say that you have any kompromat in them. Say, hey, we want you to do this A, B, or C for Israel or for whatever. I want you to vote this way or do this or put whatever. And we'll give you some money for it. Oh, yeah, cool. I know you've spoken for human rights and stuff, but we need you to take a strong stance and basically say that Israel was defending itself by killing all those children. I know it kind of contradicts what you kind of publicly said, but we need you to basically stand up for genocide. I mean, some people accuse you of that. Is that okay? We'll give you like $100. Sure. And you won't even have to use that video we have of you with that underage girl.
Yeah.
So it's all pretty nasty. The whole web is kind of disgusting, once you start into that kind of thing,
Some of those emails. I love the torture video.
Yeah, what was that about? Like, that's all just like, that's all little teasers. Like, nobody's going to be prosecuted for that. There's
no context.
Why are they releasing an email where someone makes reference to loving a torture video, rather than holding that back, finding out who that person was, investigating the nature of that comment, and seeing if that person was actually involved in viewing or distributing whatever torture videos?
Yeah, instead,
why just release the email with no reference to who it was? And what's that meant to do? Titillate people, or just is it meant to kind of like, egg people on to get them more worked up, but with no satisfaction, no resolution to that. But the other thing is there's other in the emails about again, the stuff you can, and again, this is the only benefit from all of this is for people to put together more of the puzzle, more of the picture. And to understand how the whole thing works. You need to think about it carefully. There's one document or email about, well, it was the owner of 4chan being associated with Epstein, and
the guy who started it,
right? Who started
Boris something. He was encouraged to meet Epstein, and he did so.
Right, and setting up a board on 4chan for some kind of political talk, and then out of that very quickly came QAnon and there was a lot of
That actually happened on Reddit, but there is a connection
yeah,
with 4chan.
right, and Pizzagate.
Yes, which is where that was
started.
So
that all speaks to.
We always said QAnon was an op, didn't we?
QAnon was
people like, no, it's the real thing. It's a white hat on the inside.
QAnon's, trust the plan, whatever. QAnon's it was CIA up from the beginning, but it's interesting to think about what the point of it was, you know? It's obviously on the face of it, QAnon was about building support for Trump, right?
Yes. Against the deep state.
Against the deep state. So here you have basically deep state.
Oh, Chris Poole was his name.
Right.
Creator and past owner of 4chan.
Right. So here you have basically deep state setting up messaging boards on 4chan, on Reddit, to talk about how Trump was going to expose the deep state.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of spycraft or statecraft, spycraft 101, right? When you look into your crystal ball, into your palantir, and you see that
populism is coming.
People are going to start questioning others, you know, as our crimes and our criminality, as we increase in our criminality and it becomes increasingly difficult to keep it under wraps from public awareness. Well, we need to get ahead of the posse in that. So we need to set it up. We set up.
And Ghislaine Maxwell herself
set up the opposition.
Is the moderator at the very board where QAnon starts.
Right. Yeah. So it's all pretty. That's all fairly standard.
We saw that.
Spycraft
we saw that before. Above top secret after 9/11.
Yeah.
That whole forum, it's the main conspiracy forum.
Well, they did the same thing. We were baptized in it, and after 9/11, where you had a bunch of people all coming who are obviously feds coming in and muddying the water on the 9/11 conspiracy theories, discussions, run it off the rails, talk all sorts of shit, you know. Just run it off the rails, basically. Exaggerate everything. Destroy rational, sober discourse about this and just the facts, and make up all sorts of shit. Throw it in there. Make a name for yourself. Become the one of the leading, you know, 9/11 conspiracy theorists who's talking a load of nonsense, the obvious nonsense, for the purpose of discrediting it.
Yeah,
discrediting any serious talk about it. It's pretty standard, right? So this is in a similar vein. It's like
COINTELPRO.
Yeah, and it's not
just either get in there first or get in there early and take it over.
Exactly, and take it over and keep tabs on people. It's not just for directing the discourse and the direction of the discourse, but also keeping tabs on people who would be, you know, particularly outspoken or eloquent and are good researchers and that kind of stuff, and keeping tabs on them. So it's basically spycraft, intel gathering. Same with Pizzagate. You know, they realized that kind of stuff was going to, especially in the age of the internet, that kind of stuff was going to be. The internet provides a space for people to discuss this stuff. Lots of people with lots of different information, lots of resources, lots of sleuths to be able to put together stuff, and actual people who have hardcore first-hand evidence to add all that together. So they realize that in that context, there's a potential for them being exposed, particularly in these paedophile rings that have existed for a very long time. So they start a fake scandal about pizza. What was it called? Something pizza. What was the name of the joint?
Comet Ping
Pong.
Pizzeria in DC.
In DC, right? And that's where they were all going, in the room downstairs, blah, blah, blah. The very fact that was identified as a place where that was happening is probably means that it wasn't. And then, because you want to set something like that up, then afterwards you can discredit it by saying, look, there's nothing to see here.
You have some crazy turn up with a gun and shoot at the place.
Right. Or just expose the fact that it's all false. You know, you put a false lead in there and then expose it as a false lead and say that the person or the people who are promoting this idea are all off their rockers, like ridiculous. Like they jump Comet Ping Pong in the basement. You know what? The Congress members are leaving Congress and going into Comet Ping Pong, getting a pizza, going down the bottom, abusing children, and then coming back out. Yeah. And it's obviously ridiculous, and therefore all suggesting that this thing has any merit to it whatsoever is obviously ridiculous as well.
Yeah. And the media would then report to the normies, look at the crazy shit that's happening on the internet.
Right. Don't believe any of
But that's because the internet forums in question were theirs.
it. Right, exactly.
From the
But that's what
beginning.
we did, yeah.
Okay, you've got your one-liners that are like, okay, that's very suggestive. But then there's some actually like
Did you see Larry?
far less vague stuff. That's much more like, there's no two ways to read it. So probably the biggest one is the one where it's a report, FBI report, that includes a testimony from an informant. So yeah, it's third party. But the one I'm thinking of is where, let's see, FBI reports citing a CHS, confidential human source, released in last Friday's batch, claims, quote, Trump has been compromised by Israel. And the date on that is 2020.
Yeah.
So informant, FBI report from 2020, our informant believes Dershowitz was co-opted by Mossad and subscribed to their mission. That's on page 1. And page 2, the informant advised that this was a real collusion story. Trump has been compromised by Israel, and Kushner, Jared Kushner, is the real brains behind his organization, MAGA, and then at that time, his presidency.
Yeah, it's probably more complicated, obviously, than that, but the essence of it is true. Trump obviously
has since been borne out by it.
Yeah, well, every other president probably since JFK has been compromised by Israel, right? By this really lobby. Like that's not a new thing. It's like there's a lot of pushback against it. It's antiseptic to even say that today, but it's obviously true. And the very fact that it's anti-Semitic to say it means that it's true. Almost, the truth is anti-Semitic.
Well, the DOJ just published an anti-Semitic FBI report. Then,
yeah,
you can't say it, but they can say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, it's interesting that that kind of because there's another weird angle to this is some kind of potential color revolution in the US. You know what I mean? And in that respect, you need people up in arms. You need people. To feed one side and feed the other information. Information that corroborates or adds to what they already believe. And convincing them that's what's actually going on. Because
Minneapolis,
and then at the same time, well, that's the thing. You kind of pass laws, and they are passing laws. They are passed laws in a few states, particularly recently in Florida, where it's basically it's illegal to say stuff like Israel first, to publicly state, say the words Israel first, or promote,
from the river to the sea,
promote those ideas, and then at the same time, so you pass laws that make it illegal to say the things that are being revealed as true in the quote unquote Epstein files. Where does that go?
That goes to
you're
not allowed to notice.
Yeah, notice, but you better not.
They shove it in your face, but then you can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
In other words, this is the New World Order, and you better just go along with it.
And Larry Summers seems to be all over it.
He's not the first time. He was before, but yeah.
He's big buddy with, obviously, big in with Jeffrey. Obviously a Jew himself. No surprise there. Disproportionately represented, obviously, Jews in these files in terms of the people that are named, which is not unusual because you have, Jews tend to stick together. You said that Alan Dershowitz was, in that previous one, claim is that Alan Dershowitz was co-opted by the Mossad. Well, see, the thing is, as a Jew, and this isn't exclusive to Jews, right? But it's particularly strong with them. I think Viktor Ostrovsky, a former Mossad agent, in books written in the 90s, by way of deception, I think one of them was called. It's not a big reveal or anything like that, but there's a term synonym, which refers to he referred to anyway, synonym as a term used by Israeli Mossad and Israeli intelligence, Israeli government, for any Jew living anywhere in the world, because they could be, there was a high level of confidence that if any of them, any Jew around the world, was ever approached by a member of the Israeli intelligence organizations or whatever, some representative of the Israeli government, that if they were ever approached to and asked to do something for your country, even if these are born and bred Americans, they're not, they're Jews, right? So do something for your country, i.e. not America, Israel, for the Jewish people, that there's a very high level of confidence that they would they would all agree, right? So the idea that someone like Alan Dershowitz would have to be co-opted, it's a bit strong. It's more like just asked nicely if he would work in service to the state of Israel, and he's like, where do I start? Like, you know, I'm already there. I'm way ahead of you. I've been doing this for decades. Why even asking me? What do you need?
When Netanyahu spoke at the UN in September, Dershowitz was there literally leading a group of clappers in the back.
And before I'm accused like of saying, I mean, you know, some stupid people like YouTube or something that would flag that as anti-Semitic or something, right? But before they do that, they should realize that dynamic is not unique to Jews or to the state of Israel. Many different organizations in the modern era, at least, political organizations relied on expats. In fact, Americans do it all the time as well. They're not. I'm just saying that because of the Jewish national mythos and all that kind of stuff, it's particularly strong with Jews. Because Israel is the only homeland for the Jews and never again, and don't forget the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff, it's particularly strong. But for Americans, like the CIA can have a high level of confidence that if they contact Americans living abroad and ask them to do some small small part in some intelligence operation and do it for your country, you know, there's a good chance that they'll stand up and put their hand in their heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance and go, absolutely, I'll do anything for America. And that applies to many other countries.
Soviets in the US in the 80s, hidden. I mean, they've made movies about that.
Yeah. But again, it's anti-Semitic to say that. That's weird.
Everyone knows that happens.
It's a very common thing amongst any nationality, and has been in the modern era, that intel governments and intel organizations from different countries will use expats in different countries for intelligence, blah 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 blah. It's, you know, it's super vanilla. But if you say it about the Jews, it's anti-Semitic. It's hate speech. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It makes you wonder why so paranoid. Well, I think part of it is the extreme as playing out in Gaza. The extreme lengths they're willing to go to for quote unquote my country. You know, I want to add because it's a piece of data that is kind of important if someone was trying to make not that anyone listening to this needs convincing, but out in the normie world, it would be in that same FBI informant report from 2020, in a paragraph before the key one where they said Trump has, quote, been compromised by Israel and Kushner is the handler. The informant, quote, remembered, it's again third party, but still, remembered Dershowitz, who at the time was the main legal attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, tell Alex Acosta that Epstein belonged to both US and Allied intelligence services. That's new. We all know that Alex Acosta, when asked why he let Epstein off with such a lenient, you know, slap on the wrist back in 2007, is that he said, I was told Epstein belongs to intelligence. We didn't know until now that he was told by Epstein's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. And that was enough. That carried enough. Dershowitz, the doofus, somehow that carried enough credibility for the Florida AG to go, oh, I understand, sir. Professor Dershowitz of Harvard. We'll give him, he'll have to stay at home for a few months.
12 months house arrest.
But how did that carry weight with the AG of Florida, Dershowitz, saying that?
Well,
he belongs to intelligence. You wonder, like,
but it's more than Dershowitz, obviously, right?
Because people know who's behind Dershowitz.
The chain goes up, like other people can talk to the judge and stuff, like, you know. But Yeah, and what apparently, according to this, between again, that's why I was mentioning Larry Summers, former wasn't he former chair of the Fed?
He was economic advisor for Clinton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
So he's in the Clinton cabinet.
Clinton. He said again, we can't show these, Scotty. No.
No. Unless you print it out and hold it up on a piece of paper.
Oh, okay. So this is from Larry Summers to Epstein. Which one's on first? I don't know who's speaking to who here. Anyway, Ukraine looking for advice, not sure where to start. Mentally strong is a key to your recovery. Discipline. Doing lots of things you don't want to do, taking some time to clear your head. Maybe that's
Jeffrey to Larry.
To Larry then. Larry says, we can discuss Ukraine. I know a little, having been a number of times to Pinchuk,
Ukrainian oligarch
conf, and having helped push their debt relief during Jaresko time as foreign minister.
IMF.
And then, so then Epstein says, Zelensky looking for help. Putin dismissive. Or no, maybe this is Larry Summers again. Don't know which of the ones say this, but it says Zelensky looking for help. Putin dismissive, saying he is run by Israelis.
I think that's Epstein.
So Putin supposedly, according to Epstein, saying that Zelensky is run by the Israelis. So who isn't run by the Israelis?
Epstein tended to exaggerate what he knew, blah, blah, blah. So you could take that with a grain of salt. I doubt he ever heard that firsthand. But it's 2019, and he has been to Ukraine, Epstein, and he has Zelensky's ear. That's why he's saying, "Can you help me with this? I'm being handed a big ask here. I'm kind of out of my depth a bit." So again, how is Epstein useful? The only way would be, well, because he's so tied in with the Israelis, that Zelensky, being a member of the same tribe, would Jeffrey, you'd be helpful. Can you help me? All right. Again, it's not just a financier, it's not just a blackmail op. He really is eminence Grease level. There's another one from 2017. He's being asked for advice on who to replace US Treasury Secretary with, because Mnuchin was going. Trump was no longer happy with him. And then Jeffrey's being asked, I can't remember by who. Who do you recommend?
Right.
For the Trump administration, for the United States government, Secretary of the Treasury. He's not the decider, but it's interesting that people really valued his opinion enough to go to him.
Connections.
We know from the batch in August that he helped. Oh God, who was it? I can't remember. He helped someone land a cushy job in DC, head of the Cato Institute. He had been in government. Oh God, I need a job. Sure, I'll get you one here. Yeah, done. A few emails later, done. Like, who is that guy? And then the emails are laced with like just casual, what we're told to say is anti-Semitic stuff, like the goy. Waiting in the lobby with the goy.
yeah.
I'd rather not, but I have to. It sucks.
So the claim that
boasting to someone else, this is the way the Jew makes money.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Epstein himself said that in his own words.
But there was also what do you call her? Woman he sent that to. She's a publicist or whatever in New York. What was her name? Begins with S. Mentions about going to a party or whatever, and there's going to be Jews only, or they're going to be guys there. Referring to basically another Jewish socialite, basically in the US, famous one. I can't remember. Siegel, yeah. Very well known, all that kind of stuff. Referring in conversation with Epstein to non-Jews as guys. But that's anti-Semitic to say that happens. And here you have, assuming these emails are legitimate, with no reason to believe they're not, unless somebody created them all. But if they're legitimate, then you have Jeffrey Epstein and famous New York socialite and publisher, talking to each other about non-Jews as goys.
And other forms of dripping contempt. Yeah.
Right. But to say that is anti-Semitic, and that is to say that it's false, but it's not, obviously. But you're not meant to say it from a moral standpoint, because even though it's true, it's like during the COVID era, even though it's true, you should not say it because it could create a backlash against the Jewish people, and surely the Jews have suffered enough. So therefore, let people who are carrying out crimes in Gaza, for example, war crimes and genocide in Gaza, let them carry on doing it. Don't encourage any pushback against them because of the Holocaust 80 years ago. Let them do another Holocaust. It's only right. An eye for an eye, right? That's the morality. I don't know, and that's what, YouTube and the Western media and stuff would encourage you to believe, and Western governments would encourage you to believe that is the right thing to do, to not tell the truth about the evils and crimes being committed by the state of Israel and those that support it, because they might get their comeuppance. Somebody might stop them, and they shouldn't be stopped because the Holocaust. I mean, give me another way to think about that. If you follow through, if you break that one down, how else can you explain that? I mean, now, I mean, it's not that like this use of the term goy by Jews, notable Jews, to refer to non-Jews. It's not that that's the first time that anybody has been made aware of the fact that that's how they refer to that. They do refer to non-Jews as goys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to say that Jews refer to non-Jews in a dismissive, disparaging way as goys is anti-Semitic, even though we have hard evidence that they do that. And by saying it's anti-Semitic is tantamount to saying it's not true. Except it's not that it's not true. It is true. Okay, we can't dispute the fact that it's true that they use that dismissive term for non-Jews. But you should not speak about it or criticize it. You should allow them continue to do that, because you might
cause discrimination.
Well, you might cause them to be discriminated against while they're discriminating against others.
Yes.
Or you might cause a generalized backlash against Jews in general and the state of Israel that might cause Israel to stop committing genocide in the Middle East. The logic being that they should be allowed to continue to commit genocide in the Middle East because genocide was committed against them 80 years
ago.
There you go.
So logical.
Codify that. That should be a law. That should be written down explicitly as a law, as an explainer of a law. There should be a law. The laws they're passing in Florida and stuff to criminalize criticism of Israel or any disparaging comments about Israel or Jews should have an explainer. It should have what do you call it? Cliff notes.
Yeah.
To go along with it, to explain that out in that rational way, so that people understand.
If I was in Florida and Ron DeSantis made that explicit, I would follow it to the letter.
What?
As long as he includes that, I want to see it in the preamble. U.S. code.
Yeah.
Another one here. An exchange between Epstein and Peter Thiel. Is Peter Thiel Jewish?
Mm-hmm.
He is. Okay.
Basically, you have about
Epstein responds
when you ask that question about anybody that you're talking about, anybody that comes up on this show that we talk about. When you ask that question, if you don't know and you ask the question, you've probably got about a 70% chance that the answer is yes. That person is Jewish.
I thought he was German American, but I guess that doesn't exclude. It dates from 2016. They're shooting the shit, really. Peter Thiel says, yeah, certainly not. We don't know. There's no context as usual, but he's saying should be back on the East Coast in in late April, May, sometime in NYC or on island, probably Jeffrey's Island. And Epstein, he's obviously trying to sell him on some idea because he says, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. Was that known before this?
Who?
Epstein and representing Rothschilds? Because also in this latest batch, there is a Rothschild contract with JE Associates. I think the document is the actual contract. It's certainly a summary write-up. It's a Word doc. It's not an email. Yeah, it's a letter of agreement dated October 5th, 2015. Jeffrey Epstein, President, Southern Trust Company, Incorporated. Yep. Contracting with Ariane de Rothschild on behalf of Edmund de Rothschild Holding S.A., collectively the Rothschild Group, a contract for the value of $25 million. Payments shall be made by the Rothschild Group to Southern Trust Company.
Okay.
What the work is not really clear. It's only one page of the document. God knows what it was for formally, officially.
Okay. Just as correction, Peter Thiel is not officially Jewish, but he has explicitly been involved with Jewish culture throughout his whole life.
Yeah, he's a
German.
He's a philo-Semite for sure.
I was thinking of Altman.
Sam Altman, yes, he is.
Actually, but Peter Thiel understands. He said this about Sam Altman. He told the New Yorker that Altman is culturally very Jewish, an optimist yet a survivalist, with a sense that things can always go deeply wrong, and there's no single place in the world where you're deeply at home.
Right.
Go to Israel.
But
surely aren't you deeply at home in Israel?
That's essentially the same
wandering
mindset.
Jew.
Essentially the same mindset. Another email exchange with Ariane de Rothschild and Jeffrey Epstein, 2014. This is about Ukraine. Actually, she's responding to him. Again, no caps, no punctuation. He just says, remember, this is 18th of March, 2014. So this is literally the day that Putin retook Crimea. Ukraine upheaval should provide many opportunities. That's Epstein. That's all he says. And Ariane de Rothschild said, basically agrees with him. Yeah, I know. Yeah, awesome. Are you at home tomorrow night? Will you be free? Let's discuss Ukraine. So, I mean, that right there is the conspiracy-wise. That's like that's the peak of the pyramid. No.
Yeah.
Isn't that the kind of thing you think would be excised or avoided? Or it seems to be, I mean, for anyone who's halfway educated on the state of the world and how it works, to see that is like, oh, well, there you go. Yeah. But it's left in there. The Rothschild, again, seemed to be sold out when the rubber hits the road. I suppose that's the extent of it. There's nothing more than just, they could say, wow, it's just business. As could, for example, Peter Thiel, although there's some other dodgy stuff with him there about how much fun they had on the Epstein Island. That was from the previous batch back in October. Another one here, again, Epstein, can you take him at his word? He claims in an email to Michael Wolff, who's the New York Times columnist turned author who's written books, that Trump hates him because Melania is suing him, or he's suing Melania. I can't. Trump hates this guy. This is one Jew Trump does not like. Email is Epstein to Wolff, We've no context, so we don't know what he's replying to, but he says, I assume you already know that the original funder for the dossier was Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
Wolf was writing about Russiagate. That was one of his books on Trump. And he adds, not sure why it seems so mysterious. Is that a bluff? Does he know that? Is Epstein that, clued in that Steele dossier, which was the key to getting Russiagate launched, was Marco Rubio's doing?
That was bipartisan. That was a bipartisan effort back in the day.
Yeah.
They're all. It's really very. It's really very
scattershot,
unsatisfactory, because everybody's in there,
Yes.
You got Barry Weiss, for example. She was at X with Elon for a while, wasn't she? Was that her? No, she was there before, was she? Anyway, she's now
the Free Press. So she set up as alternative media
right.
back in the day, went on Rogan, was embarrassed, and now she's worked her way up. She's failed upwards, and now she's head of CBS.
Right, because she's
yes, member of the
People of the Light, and she's now the editor-in-chief of CBS News. Yeah, so her and her wife, she's a lesbian, so her and her wife are all over, particularly her wife, are all over the Epstein files, corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein in 2018, all that kind of stuff. So, but again, the Jews all stick together, So it's a big club, and nobody else is in it, and that's fine, It doesn't matter because you really don't want to be in that club,
No.
It's full of. It's like the scum rise to the top, and it's all just scum. It's an immoral cesspool of vapid, boring people.
Yeah.
Who go to big parties, like
the Norwegian crown princess.
Yeah.
She emails Epstein in 2012. Hi, Jeff. Is it appropriate for a mother to suggest 2 naked women carrying a surfboard for my 15-year-old son's wallpaper?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. How you doing? See you next time. Oh, yeah, the dinner, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward 15 years, and breaking news this week. Son of Norway crown princess to stand trial for allegedly raping 4 women.
Yeah. That's the Jeffrey Epstein.
That's the Epstein influence. Not his doing, though. That's 2 corrupt
parents.
They're all of them like mind anyway,
mm-hmm.
and she's definitely not Jewish. So that's a meeting of minds where that's not like Epstein got in there and corrupted them for the Mossad. I mean, they didn't need to.
No, you can't. You can only go so far with it. Like,
do you know who it reminds you of? Everyone in England knows about the Duke and Andrew and Epstein. For years she obviously denied it, and she put out press statements like, yeah, I know it's horrifying, shocking, terrible, I have to protect my daughters from this. But we know from the batches released in August or October that, what's her name? His ex-wife,
Sarah Ferguson. She was
doing in the same chatty emails.
Best buddy with Epstein as well. Yeah.
Until recently.
Yeah. So it's a big clique and a big, and the extent of the opulence of these people's surroundings is inversely proportional to their decency and their integrity and their morality. That's a good rule of thumb, basically. The bigger and you see it all over the place now, all the, Trump and his, all of those people, all of the quote unquote elite and all the parties they go to and the balls they have and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like Mos Eisley. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
The cantina at Mos Eisley, just but in a ballroom, a hive of scum and villainy,
and glittering gold.
Yeah,
and too much money that much money they don't know what to do with it.
Well, and the royals, say what you like about the royals, whatever, but yeah, there's problems there, obviously, inbreeding, and it comes back to bite you. Andrew, runs in the family. His great uncle, Lord Mountbatten, was a paedophile. They blew him up in his boat off the coast of Ireland, where he used to, on his colonial boat. Blew him up, I think it was 1979. 79? Don't know.
79, yeah.
Blew him and his boat up. Turned out afterwards that in recent years it came out that the FBI had a file on him because of his. Well, again, FBI doing the same thing as. This is statecraft. We have to remember that the FBI, CIA, MI6, MI5, etc., all do exactly the same thing. Have been doing it for a very long time, which is collecting, compromising information on everybody and anybody.
Yeah.
Their friends as well as their foes.
Yeah.
In fact, more so on their friends. Keep your friends close, right?
Yeah.
By way of blackmail.
And there'd be no reason for it to ever have effect in Lord Mountbatten's case, because he's definitely on side. He's one of us. But we know that kompromat was used against, I forget his name. He was kind of a notorious far-right leader, anti-immigration in England. Powell.
Enoch Powell.
And maybe he was always inclined that way, but he ended up being involved with that buggering boy scandal.
Yeah.
And that was the end of his career.
Yeah, that's a British elite for you. And it's... well, the stuff they'd collect, the British intelligence would collect on the royal family would be to keep the royal family in line.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, the thing about it is, you don't collect that kind of information. You collect it as a matter of course. It's policy. You don't have to suspect anything. You don't have to think that we better get it on this particular person because, they look like they might be going a bit off script or whatever, or they might be potentially be a threat to our established order or whatever. They might have some negative influence from our perspective on the population, like telling the truth or something like that. So we need to get information on him, dig everything up on him. You find you only go through that process so much, or for so long, until you realize, look, we just need information on everybody, absolutely everybody, because you can't anticipate. You basically have information on absolutely everybody. Because what else is the spy agency going to do? You know what I mean? Sure, they have their foreign spy agencies, whatever, but the domestic ones, they're spying on everybody at home. First and foremost, on the upper echelons.
Yeah.
In the UK, on the royals, on all the politicians, and all the way down.
J. Edgar Hoover in the FBI. And
right.
40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, yeah. So, conspiracy theory take, one that I saw was, and this maybe plugs into our model of the US and Israel squeezing each other by the nuts.
Yeah.
That this is partly, I mean, like I said before, this is following a natural process. They were actually delayed. This should have all been out by mid-December, according to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. But it's possibly timed with Iran, and can we go yet or not? And so pressure on Trump to come on.
Yeah, except
maybe.
Trump is exceptionally good at blowing everything off, right?
Yeah.
He does, and his response to this so far has been like, that's the same old thing. That's a hoax. That's a Democrat hoax. There's nothing in it. In fact, what I've heard is that even in this latest batch, it all exonerates me. The only reason I'm actually mentioned in there is to say what an upstanding guy I was. Jeffrey Epstein, actually, there's an email from Jeffrey Epstein to me that I didn't respond to, telling me how unimpeachable I actually am, and how he has absolutely nothing on me, and how that I never visited his island, and him crying to me to visit his island. That's what I've been led to believe is in those files, and everything else. But it's also a Democrat hoax. It's also not true. All the stuff in there with me is good, and all the bad stuff is not true.
Yeah. So it doesn't work on Trump personally, but I suppose it still pressures the system as a whole.
Well, you don't know. That's Trump's public persona. You don't know what Trump is feeling behind the scenes, because obviously he's not open about if he's concerned about the Epstein files, which he clearly is, because even if he just believes it's a Democrat hoax, if he really believes that's what I don't think he does, but that's his narrative to the public. But even if he were only believe that, he still feels the pressure of it, because a hoax is what he got hoisted on in his first term. So he's very sensitive to hoaxes, and their potential for very real damage to him. So I wouldn't say that it's not affecting him.
Yeah. Yeah. At the very least, you can say it's affecting the general climate around them. I mean, when everyone from Peter Thiel and Musk is slandered by it, legitimately or otherwise, to, you know, it's then he'll feel the need to protect. It's funny because it actually puts him in the ironic position of, and people think that implicates him personally, that he is always and always has been the swamp, but he's having to defend the swamp from this.
Trump, yeah.
You know what I mean? He began with, I'm going in there to drain the swamp, and now he's like,
Which turned it into a nature reserve, right? Protected nature reserve. No, I mean, he can't do anything about it, you know? Like the one truthful thing he said is that he inherited all this, and he's not capable of doing anything about it, right? That's why he just wants to carry on. He wants to leave all that stuff behind. All the stuff that is part of an edifice that has been constructed over the past 80, 90, 100 years. The whole deep state apparatus. He knows he can do nothing about it. He experienced what it was capable of in his first term, and he realized I can't do anything about that. That's a separate government. That's almost like a breakaway government that runs the show behind the scenes. They're the ones who can, attempt to assassinate me. They can kind of kill Charlie Kirk and all that kind of stuff. And it's hooked in with the Israelis, and it's a kind of like transnational group that aren't really Israelis, aren't really Americans, see themselves as globalists, Alex Jones globalists. And he can do nothing about that, and he realized that. So he just dismisses that all the time. He just tries to make it go away, forget about it, leave it alone, let it do its thing. I'll try and navigate it. And his only job is as a businessman. He's just coming in as a businessman. He's going to make America great again. Financially, he's going to steal people's oil and
kidnap their leaders.
Kidnap their leaders and do stuff like that. Just do what America's good at, overtly, and leave the deep staters, the permanent bureaucracy behind the scenes to run the show, because you don't want to mess with them because they will shoot you.
Yeah.
They'll just take you out, and he knows that, and either take you out or take your family out or threaten you with all sorts of 6 ways from Sunday, as what's his face said, from getting back at you, get back at
and getting riots going. I mean, we saw that in 2020 BLM. Minneapolis seems, I mean, the very polarization speaks to, okay, there's something that work here,
Mm-hmm.
What we've since learned, I mean, in the week since then, that Bovino character has been fired. Trump sent Tom Homan to Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
Which is right there. It tells you that not even Trump White House believed their own lies about the killing of Andrew Peretti.
Mm-hmm.
But the big reveal was that the signals chat groups were leaked due to an infiltration by this guy called Cam Higby.
Mm-hmm.
He's like he's similar to the kid who, was it Rick Shirley, who made those videos showing the daycare centers in downtown Minneapolis over Christmas holidays were all like,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically scams, multi-million-dollar scams. So the Cam Higby got into signals chat groups and he dumped a load of it on Monday, I think, Monday. There's definitely legs there for MAGA to run with. This is an organized color revolution type 101 tactics. You can see where that's going, though. The conclusion will be, you see, there's a vast left-wing conspiracy against MAGA. It's them Democrats hoaxing again.
Yeah.
No, dude, that's intelligence grade shit, what they're doing there.
Right. Yeah, it's obviously been weaponized. I mean, but that's, again, talk about, like we talked earlier on about the way in which the intel, the only job, you had one job, the intel agency's one job is to spy on everybody.
Yeah.
The domestic intelligence agency is to spy pretty much on everybody in the country and to keep tabs on, go back to, like you mentioned, COINTELPRO from the 70s, the Black Panthers, all that kind of stuff. That's their job, is to go around the country, ears to the ground, identifying potentially subversive, from their point of view, subversive groups in the country. And as soon as they show any sign of gaining any traction, we're in there. We have our informants, our assets, whatever, who get into that group and take control of it. And we direct it whichever way. If it, and the weird thing is here, it's not just to direct it in a bad direction. Let's say that it discredits it and it disappears and dissolves. It's like, keep it going because we might want to use this group in the future. So our job isn't necessarily to keep the country
To
keep the country safe,
kill threats.
to keep down subversion.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might want to promote subversion, like we do in many other countries. Color revolutions. Sometimes we might want to have some kind of a color revolution in America. Now, America's a big place, and it's not so easy to make a color revolution happen in a country of 400 million people and so big, right?
Yeah.
But Minnesota seems to me to be an example of
Just keeping a fire,
the essence of
control,
that, essentially. Something.
fire going.
Yeah. Those groups, like you said, those groups being facilitated, and it's happened before. You mentioned previously about truckloads of blocks, bricks and stuff being shipped into protesters and stuff, and where's that coming from and stuff, Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be intel agencies. Who knows? It could be members of the government, the lefty government in Minnesota, the governor, what do you call him?
Waltz.
Tampon.
Well, I'm a key operator in it is a woman. Oh, I didn't look her up before the show, but her background is supporting
Left-wing
freedom
radicalism.
activists in Syria, Ukraine, etc., etc.
Yeah,
She can rattle off a whole list. So that's her thing, and now she's focused on bringing these support networks to activism back home.
Yeah, I don't see how that could only be used in America to achieve increased division and maybe some particular agenda, some particular political agenda in the particular state that it's happening in. Because it could never be countrywide. Like it's just way too big.
It's a tool, but it's context specific.
Right.
But here the issues are mass immigration, deportation, labor costs.
Right. So it's about achieving political objectives ultimately at the federal level, if necessary. But it's enough for it to blow up one state, let's say, or blow up in one state.
If you listen to the activists on the ground, their focus is to get such a chaos going here that Trump does something awful and we get him impeached. So that's what they believe.
Okay, yeah.
But
so
like you said,
like
the US is too big. That's not going to happen.
You're not
again.
going to have the whole country.
But that's what keeps them ideologically invested.
Right.
We have a purpose. We're going to get Trump impeached here.
I think didn't they pass a law in Minnesota that, or was it an order or whatever, given that the local police enforcement would not respond to ICE to help ICE, basically, that if ICE were cornered or something, as they were, I think, in a hotel somewhere or whatever, by protesters, that local police would not go in and get rid of the crowd, basically, and just leave them.
Yeah.
Because ICE is seen as a foreign, or the border patrol are seen as basically treating them essentially as just combatants. Like they're basically giving equivalency to the protesters and ICE and the border
law.
patrol.
You notice it, and the law got headlines. But this tactic has been in use at least since Trump came back last year.
Yeah,
what they're doing is so it happened in, for example, Portland, and then in LA in June. The police are ordered to not protect federal buildings, including wherever ICE is maybe staying in a hotel nearby, or they're basing their operation out of, or they're actually taking detainees. And the police stand down, and the protesters cause chaos there.
Right.
That's what's been going on. That's why Trump sent in very small numbers of National Guard. It was to protect federal buildings in these places, because the police were going like
hands off.
And they're just down the road. They're not far. They're watching it. But they would stand off. So they're getting the stand-down orders have been happening in effect even before legislating for it.
Right.
That's how, again, that's very intelligence-y. That doesn't just happen because who can make a city-level police force stand down?
Well, the state legislature, the governor, yeah. It's under the control of the governor. That's state police.
Yeah. Surely that's against federal law. Surely the state is raked over the coals. I mean, the US is a federal system. It's a federal system, sure, but in practice, de facto, like...
No, the government has no control over state law enforcement, like.
So
state troopers, state police, whatever they all say. The only thing, that's why they send in the National Guard whenever The only thing the government can do is send in the National Guard or the army, which is the National Guard basically. But they can only have control over the army.
Yeah. So another massive protest there, but yeah, it won't become a national issue. I think BLM was different in 2020. It was fueled, and pallets of bricks were bought, but that was spontaneous because within hours of it happening, you had mostly black solidarity.
And it was only a few cities, like it was even just Ferguson, right? I mean, Ferguson was the primary city. Again, it's not possible to ignite something like that nationwide. Like they seem to have, whether it was organic or whether it was helped or a mixture of both. You're not going to get. There's not going to be another American Revolution. You know what I mean? Or American Civil War.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There could be specific states that have issues with the government, the federal government, or whatever, and they have, obviously, or vice versa. But yeah, and you're dealing with a lot of apathy as well. You know what I mean? I can't imagine what would shake, a large percentage, 50% of the American population out of their generalized dumbing down and apathy to get out and
to pick this hill to die on.
No, they're not radicalized. They're the opposite of radicalized. The radicalization is for when you actually want to have, like radicalized Muslims. That's what's been synonymous with Muslims. They call them radicalized. Basically give them weapons and get them to invade countries and do your fighting for you. But back at home, you want exactly the opposite. Really, you want a dumbed down population. It's much better. You don't want your own country in turmoil. You want it pacified, but in the worst way, pacified during a time when the people should be exactly the opposite.
Yeah. When there's all these warning signs that they're falling off, they're coming off, they're heading for a cliff anyway. Like, for example, US dollar, gold going bonkers this week.
Yeah, Twitter, X was like just it was this cacophony of like people freaking out about gold. It was just every second post was gold this and what was it? Not a singularity, but some kind of term like that. I can't remember what term somebody was using and stuff. But it seemed weird to me because I just looked at it and I was like, that looks like a bunch of people sold a bunch of their gold and silver to take the profits. People who had gold, because it's risen from, in a year it's risen from
something to,
well, it depends on gold, but gold is up maybe whatever 70, 80, 90% or something like that, and then silver is up like almost 300% in a year. So anybody who had bought it a year ago now is, especially when it just rallied there last week, it shot up from like $90 or $95 or whatever up to 120. And people just decide, okay, that's as far as it's going to go, or as far as it should go, or it's good for it to go. And so let's take our profits now. And once people sell, the price drops. Once they dump a bunch of the gold or silver back in the market, the price obviously drops. So it drops back down to a bit lower than it was a week ago, or roughly the same as it was a week ago. So it cancelled out the rally of the past week and dropped back down to what it was a week ago, and people just took all those profits. But now it's going to start going back up again, but now from a higher position than it was before.
Yeah, its long-term trend is still up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
nothing happened to suddenly nothing changed in the market, in the gold or silver market, in the precious metal market. Nothing happened in terms of production or anything like that. That drop was people selling it to take the profit. And that pushed the price back down. But it's going to go back up because conditions that caused it to rise astronomically over the past year have not changed at all. So it's just going to continue a gradual increase over this year. But starting from the higher place, much higher than it was a year ago. So, and it'll probably keep doing that, until something else happens, something more catastrophic happens, but it'll just keep going. So the precious metal rises, certain peak, people take the profit, it drops back to what it was a couple of weeks previous. Then it starts to go up again, drops because they take the profit, up again. But it's a continual growth until something breaks.
Yes, we're not there yet, but it did. People thought, "Oh shit, this is it."
This is what the economy's collapsing because
we've seen so much of this for so long that it doesn't have that effect on us. But it was interesting watching relative newbies, gold bugs especially, go, "Oh my god," because it was a bit more than what you just described. So gold only breached the $4,000 an ounce mark a few months ago.
No.
October, November, I think.
No.
And so it breached 5,000 in just a matter of months. That was the news a couple of weeks ago, and then it kept going and going, and it peaked last Thursday at $5,400.
$5,500. Yeah, and it lost 500. Gold.
I think it's lost 1,000. It's down.
No, it lost 500. It lost 500 in that drop. It's at 4,900. Was it
49?
54? Okay. Gold was. Okay, yeah, no, okay, you're well, yeah, it was October, yeah, so it breached 4,000 in October, and rose to 5, the past 3 months. What are we now, January? Yeah, so it went up. It's basically up 72%. Gold is up 70% in 1 year.
It's still way up.
So it went up to 5,000, 5,400, whatever, and then it dropped back down to 4,950, which it was at
a couple of weeks before.
1 week previously.
Okay, yeah.
So both are on the same as silver.
Yeah.
Except silver, because it had been particularly low, it's in 1 year it's increased to 172%. And again, it just dropped back down. But it's just going to open in the markets tomorrow. It's going to start gradually climbing back up again.
It's funny seeing Peter Schiff out there. He's been wheeled out periodically during crises in the past 20 years, telling people the US dollar is collapsing, The
US government is devaluing its own dollar in order to, this is Trumponomics, right? Trumponomics or the Don Rowe doctrine, just to increase the attractiveness of American products, manufacturing products, to sell them abroad,
and to make
you want to drop the price
to make it easier to pay its debt
as well. Yeah, you kind of cancel out your debt in a certain sense. Not cancel it, but reduce your debt.
The mundane explanation I've seen is that mundane, but still interesting in itself, is that the massive rally earlier last week, when it was sky high, was a hedge by big investors, companies, banks, etc., ahead of the announcement of who Trump would pick as chairman of the Federal Reserve, because depending on who he picks, they'll read it one way or the other. When they saw who it was who was announced on Friday, they went, it'll be roughly the same as what Powell was doing, keep inflation low. He's that kind of guy. We know him well. Sell it all.
Right.
Sell what they had bought a lot of earlier.
Exactly.
And so it plummeted.
Right.
That's the
behind the scenes.
That's
but
the
actual reason for the drop was the sell-off. But
Yeah.
the reason for the sell-off was because of his pick for Fed provided confidence, let's say.
So did you see who it is? Yes. Well,
A person of the light.
a member of the Bilderberg Steering Committee.
Well, aren't they all?
Been invited to, maybe, but to be on the steering committee, Trump picks Kevin Warsh, former Fed governor and son-in-law of World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder, who's an old buddy of Trump's. He was one of the lead investors in Greenland, rare earths, etc., etc. Yes, so that's obviously someone, because Trump has been bitching about Jerome Powell for years, even though Trump put him in, didn't he? Term one. Anyway, so now he's got this guy, Kevin Warsh. That's kind of like, it's not really. I mean, they've had members of the tribe being Fed chairman before, Alan Greenspan, for example.
That's their forte.
Yeah, of course.
Come on, Neil.
Yeah.
Goes back centuries.
Anyway, I'm pleased to announce that I'm nominating Kevin Warsh. Blah blah blah. And so the market's went, oh, okay, right, cool, yeah.
Oh,
and they sold
excellent.
off. So they sold off the gold. Ronald Lauder, though, son-in-law, so presumably he married his daughter. He's one of the mega group in the informal thing with Leslie Wexner and Charles Bronfman from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
All of them, at least, of course, they're affiliated with Epstein. It's kind of funny. Nothing. Epstein, even dead in quotes. Let's assume he's dead to the world. He's still everywhere. Everything that happens, he's only 1 or 2 points removed from. They talk about 6 degrees of separation. With Epstein, it's more like 2. He was kind of phenomenal in that respect. So yeah, we've mentioned this already. That it was the most sound theory I saw. Not so much about the massive rally and crash on Friday, but Trump never panicked or worried. His longer term view with U.S. monetary policy is to try and devalue the dollar. So that's he's hoping. I'm sure he's confident that the band's going to make it. But the only way he leaves is if he's super aggressive, as we've seen. Trump 2 term has been so far. Here's something though that kind of speaks to the underlying sickness, not of Trumponomics. We can't blame him for this, but I suppose Western liberal, neoliberal economics in general, Trump campaigning before this term would say, shame we can't play this, but he was very explicit. He bragged that he was going to bring down housing costs some 30-50%. We don't want another housing bubble. Houses are overvalued, etc. He kind of pretty much tried to do a Xi Jinping on it, who, when he's been castigated by the markets because China's experiencing a housing price crash. Right. Xi Jinping was like, houses are for living in. They're not for speculation. That's China's official line on it. So Trump was trying to be more in line with that as the leader of our part of the world pie. But now this week he's saying, no, we want housing prices high in order explicitly to protect the equity of, the quote is, people that own their homes. We're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up.
So can't you have house prices low for people buying them and high for people who own them?
The problem is it prices out young people.
No, but you keep them low for buyers and high for sellers, right? Seems to be what he's saying. If he wants to pander to both people buying houses and selling houses, he has to keep them low only for the people buying them, high for the person selling them. Easy.
No, because if it's high for the person selling them, it's going to be too high for the person buying it.
No. You keep it low. If I have a house and I'm buying it, and if I'm buying a house and you have it, you sell it to me at a low price, but I buy it from you at a high price. See? Carry on.
You're rubbish. No, this is the thing. I think Trump came face to face. This isn't just the United States. The entire, it's not even just the West. This is a global problem. The temptation is too strong to preserve the wealth of the older generations, even though it is devastating the younger generations who can't ever catch up to get that first pot from which to. It's a chronic issue. It's a systemic issue, and in an aging population, the biggest demographic of voter is the older. It's not the younger, because the younger, there are so few and few of them. And yeah, it's a horrible mix. This is why ultimately, and the system tries to correct for this. In one key way is mass immigration. We need more younger people, and the unspoken part, which obviously rails the nationalist right, is they're going to have to procreate with you younger kids too. But I'm reading a book by Philip Pilkington who looks at this as a assumes it's a macro policy, because it's officially a conspiracy theory, right? No one really acknowledges it as state policy, but he assumes it's it's policy, and he games out the numbers. He's got a cool model that you can play around with, and it doesn't work. Part of the reason is the entrenched liberal ideology. So those youngsters from Syria, the Maghreb, Africa, South Asia, Central Asia, Latin America, they come up and west into the West, and they live there. What starts happening? Their own birth rates plummet.
Right.
Because they're enjoying the liberal lifestyle of consumption and holidays and putting that off, having family and stuff. There's no pressure on you anymore to have family. Once the pressure is lifted, it's like, oh, I'll just enjoy this. This is cool.
Right.
So it's failing. So what Trump has done this week is just acknowledge the reality and just kick the can down the road. This is unfixable. Places like Hungary are trying to, by massively incentivizing having kids, literally, they've gone beyond tax cuts now. They're paying people to have kids. It's a huge amount of their budget.
Yeah.
Anyway, today the US government has gone into shutdown again. This is connected with Minneapolis. So the Dems are holding up funding unless there are, quote, major reforms to immigration enforcement. I presume that means the funds in question affect paying ICE agents. So they were trying to get them out of Minnesota. We'll see how long that lasts. The last one was the record, wasn't it? Like over a month.
Right.
I think this one affects the DOD as well. So they're furloughed again.
Not the ones who are hanging around in the Middle East right now.
The Armada. Trump's Armada. He actually called it an Armada.
Yeah.
Does he know any history that way? Okay. Yeah, we sent a huge Armada.
Yeah.
What do you think? It's still imminent, isn't it?
Trump's doing his strategic ambiguity thing. So, and it kind of works, We kind of laughed at him the way he was doing it with the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. Who knows, But, it is. He's kind of simple-minded in a cunning kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, because that for all the game theory and all that kind of stuff that they engage in to try and figure out, how to best your enemies or best your adversaries or whatever, with double reverse, triple reverse, quadruple reverse psychology and all that kind of stuff. Trump just plays it very simple. He just he says, I know we're going to talk to the Iranians, and then he bombs them, and then the next time he does the same thing again, and they say, well, you did that last time, so we don't believe you this time.
Yeah, and in the meantime, he's threatening them to his social.
Yeah,
they better all together get the massive bombing, and then you find out he's actually on the phone to Iran. Then they're chatting and it's fun. Yeah,
except even though he's on the phone with them, he still could be planning to bomb them the next day. So it's just very simple, talk out of both sides of your mouth and let the chips fall where they may, So who knows? Yeah, I'm tired of kind of waiting on that kind of stuff. I'm just like...
I found an article you wrote, 2006. Bombs away. US to attack Iran.
Oh, yeah?
It seemed imminent to you at the time.
In 2006?
Yeah. 20 years. 20 years been waiting.
No. Well, they've already bombed Iran.
They have. In fairness, the nothing ever happens crowd got, they're only half right. And what I try to tell them, if any even listen, is nothing has really happened. It's been mostly kayfabe, because if this were really to happen, it's like Event Horizon. You can't see the consequences. You can't reasonably predict them beyond that point. You know, if does Iran block the Straits of Hormuz, does that cause a massive, never mind the price of energy going up, that'll be downstream. What about immediate day-to-day effects of supply chain, logistics, trade, shipping?
I didn't write an article called Bombs Away. You're making that up.
Do you remember that, Scotty? I remember that.
No.
U.S. Iran.
I didn't do that. You're making stuff up.
Joe Quinn, 2006. Let's see what that comes up. Yeah. No. You don't remember?
6 years ago.
Well, we'll have. Okay, we'll circle back to that. I thought if I mentioned it, you'd remember it and go, "Oh Jesus, yeah, that was a long time ago." But yeah, anyway, the point is, it's getting ridiculous. And people have Iran war fatigue, even though it hasn't happened yet. In the meantime, Trump's doing part of his strategic ambiguity. He's putting maximum pressure on Cuba and boasting that Cuba is about to fall. But he's being told, you're talking about a humanitarian catastrophe if you seriously cut off all energy sources for that island. His response to that on Air Force One yesterday was, "Well, I know we don't want a humanitarian crisis, so they should make a deal."
Mm-hmm.
Like it can be just. Cuba has resisted for so long. Do you think Cuba could actually just turn around and go, "Yeah, okay"?
Well, he's not wrong. Cuba's in trouble with. Not that they're not in trouble, because obviously the US can supply Cuba with
everything it needs,
with the oil that it used to get from Venezuela, that it now is being used as leverage to kind of like. But again, that's like, kind of leverage you use. Do you want some oil? Yeah, okay. Well, you have to kind of, your government has to resign, and you have to allow us to select a new government for you. It's kind of harsh, I don't know where, I haven't looked into it, but I don't know where else Cuba would easily, it's a significant shortfall, but with, basically there's the Americans aren't going to allow any, or to the best of their ability, aren't going to allow any tankers carrying Iranian oil, obviously, to Cuba, and obviously not from Venezuela. So where does Cuba get its resources from? Where does it get its oil from? We'll have to see. That's Trump's preferred method, is kind of maximum pressure in that respect, without having to necessarily blow the crap out
violence, of it. Yeah. Someone who couldn't resist going back to their old ways. Was that confirmed that it was France who did this? An airstrike against the airport in Niger?
Mm-hmm.
The story there is that there was a disputed transshipment of uranium. Is that what the official story, or did I can't remember if I read that from someone's take on it, and that it was being sold instead to a Russian consortium, where ordinarily it would have gone to Avia, the French nuclear giant. Okay, there were no serious injuries, but Niger's broadcaster said a French national was among the suspects killed in the clashes.
Mm-hmm. So
that wasn't proxies. That was actually the French military engaging with Nigers.
Well, there's not a lot of information about it, but
okay.
It could be proxies,
Yeah, they may have been French citizens, but they were mercenaries, more
right.
likely, not actually the French military.
Right.
Still, it's
kind of Wagner.
Yes.
French Wagner, basically. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Are we good? Have you any more nuggets? Go.
No, not really. No.
No?
Or
even one?
on any other news, George Zinn, the old Jewish geezer who stood up the moment Charlie was shot, has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for kiddie porn.
Surprise, surprise.
Even though the question obviously is, why did he do that and who paid him to do it?
Yep.
Which he said that's what happened.
There's a useful idiot right there. There's a useful sign.
Wow.
Useful idiot sign him, basically.
But they don't just let him rot 15 years, right? There's got to be some way they get him out.
Maybe. Probably not, in his case. No, that's the problem. Once you get into that game, where you make a deal with the devil, basically, because that's what you're doing. You better be damn sure. You better be smart enough to cover your ass, because you will be expended if necessary. I mean, imagine how crass that is. Like, imagine he's obviously a stupid old fool, like, basically, who agreed to go there, knew that Charlie Kirk was going to be shot, and agreed to go there to provide temporary distraction for the police by saying,
I did it.
Yeah, because the guys who planned it would have been like, well, the cops, there are some local, university cops on the scene there, and we don't want them interfering in the immediate aftermath, so how would we kind of get that out fella George Zinn to stand up and say that I did it? Tell him it's really important for the state of Israel, that Yahweh will love him for it. Sure, I'll do it. And then he goes to prison for 15 years. Because that's how pathetic it is, like. And that's a really crass level, like getting some dude to stand up. First of all, it's idiotic of him and shows the mindset of those kind of people.
Yeah.
And then the planners just, and then, the level of, okay, it's effective, I suppose, but it's super basic, like. People think all of it's very complicated and, Machiavellian, and you'd never figure it out and all this kind of stuff. And they literally just got some old dude to agree to stand up and say, I did it to distract the cops.
And pull his pants down.
For 5 minutes, yeah. Yeah. Oh, pull your pants down just for an extra bit of show. These people are pathetic. I mean, what they do is horrible, but they're also very, very pathetic people.
Yeah.
And they should be lampooned and ridiculed more than anything else. They shouldn't be feared. They should just be laughed at. Despite all their evil.
Speaking of, Keir Starmer went to China.
Yeah, that's goon.
Sure enough, as I suspected, he did not do a carny, but they still gave him, semi, full treatment, state dinner and shit like that. But as for deals, I heard, good deals for whiskey and something else, but nowhere near at the level of what Carney did for Canada. The most substantial thing Keir Starmer did last week was get another Ukrainian rent boy arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that was his doing, but that's number 5 now. 2 have since been released. I think 3 are still held on remand.
The ones who set a fire in his house, or whatever.
Started fires.
Firebomb in his house.
A former house of his, a house of his sister-in-law, and a car that used to be his in North London last May.
It's so lowbrow and so gutter. It's low class. These people are like, you talk about the lower class and stuff. These people in the so-called elite or upper class engage in stuff that a lower class person in the UK, for example, in this case, wouldn't even dream of ever doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Keir Starmer up to his neck in all sorts of grift over Ukraine, for example. And that whole charade and all the bullshit and lies that he and others have all involved themselves in over Ukraine, freedom and democracy and all that kind of stuff. And it's just basically grift. And as part of that whole process, he, has a little side gig going on because now we're involved with Ukraine. Well, there's some nice rent boys from Ukraine who could come to my house and service me. And then apparently they didn't like him or didn't like the way that he treated them, so they ended up setting fire to his house. I mean, that's like inner city. That's worse than inner city.
Hoodlums, gangs.
Yeah, or super low class. It's like it's as bad as the kind of stuff gypsies you get up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like gypsy. It's the stuff that is salacious. It should be in the front of Weekly World News. You know what I mean? Just to titillate the people with the pure, lowbrow salaciousness of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the elite, and they're all like that.
Yeah.
And that's why the world is in the state it is, because it's being run by people like that. And people can give them any give them any respect at all. I mean, it's mind-boggling that people look up to them at all.
Yeah.
They're basically stuff that's stuck to the bottom of our collective shoe. That should just be wiped off.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
A den of scum and villainy.
Hive of scum and villainy.
A hive of scum and villainy.
Star Wars never gets old. Yeah, okay. So how do you make holy water?
Give it to a priest.
You boil the hell out of it.
Good.
There you
And
go.
it's
Topical.
purified.
It's topical. Yeah, so we'll
And
leave it
then you
there,
chuck it at
and then you throw it at
some
the
politicians.
elites. Yeah, so we'll leave it there for this week, folks. We hope you enjoyed the show. Neil, that's Neil's hand. Since you haven't seen him for the whole show, we'll be back next week. Which camera am I looking at? That one or this one? This one.
This one here.
We'll be back next week with another show on whatever bullshit's been going on between now and then. Which undoubtedly there'll be some. Maybe we'll get a quiet week. You never know, or maybe something dramatic will happen. But either ways, we're not going to be sitting around waiting for it to happen. We'll just get on with chopping wood and carrying water in the meantime, and then just deal with whatever comes down the pike, or whatever it's called. So until then, have a good week and say your prayers.
Bye all.
See you
Thanks
later.
for
Bye.
watching.